Hey, what's going on? This is Marcos. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Sigma 70-200 f2.8 sports lens. Now, I bought this lens back at the beginning of the year. I forgot exactly when, but it's been a couple months since I've been using it, and I can tell you I am pretty happy with this purchase. When I was considering 70-200, I look at a couple options. First of all, there's Canon, because everyone that I know, every filmmaker has a Canon glass. And then I looked at the price for f2.8 equivalent of this, and for Canon it's 2600. I was like, ooh, that's a lot, because this one at the moment was running at 1500. Right now the price has gone down to 1250 to match more of like the Tamron 70-200. But I decided to pull the trigger on the Sigma just because I like the build quality better. I feel like the plastic, even though it's plastic, it feels like a higher quality plastic. And then there's the Sony E-mount, because I am a Sony user. The f4 70-200 on Sony was also 1500. I don't know, at the end I just didn't really care for the E-mount, even though I'm a Sony user. I've been buying most of my lenses Canon, and the reason for that is because Canon is a very universal mount, and I might not be using Sony cameras in 1, 2, 3 years from now. So I just wanted to have the flexibility in case I switched. I can still use the lenses I bought. So the Sigma only comes in Canon mount. It doesn't come in E-mount, but I put the MC11 adapter. However, I lose the autofocus capabilities I would have gotten if I've gone with the Sony E-mount 70-200. But I don't really care for autofocus, because the stuff I'm doing, most of the time I set my focus manually, because I don't want it to switch in case, like let's say I'm shooting a live event, someone walks in front of the lens, the focus might change on the subject. So autofocus to me is not a big deal. This lens does come with optical stabilization installed. If you are shooting photos with this, then it works great. For the most part, I don't do photos, I do video. And so with the times I've tested the autofocus for video, it doesn't really work. For the type of work I am doing, I really needed an f2.8, because I'm often shooting weddings in these churches that are really dark, and I can't throw lights inside churches, so I just have to go with whatever the ambient light is. If I'm at an f4, I'm already cranking up the ISO a lot. Even at f2.8, sometimes I'm having to crank up the ISO fairly high, and so I want to keep that ISO as low as possible. That way the image doesn't look as grainy. So it's great having an f2.8. It's super sharp at f2.8. You don't get any kind of chromatic aberration. I'm really happy with the image quality. Now, in the past, I've talked about owning a Rocha 135mm. There's a card here if you can check it out. If you don't have the money to invest in a 70-200, then that's a lens you might want to check out. However, I needed the extra focal length to get up close to the subject, because when I'm shooting weddings and the couple is giving their vows, I want to get right in there and just in their face and cancel everything out, the other people that are in the room, because it's a very intimate moment. Also, when I'm shooting live events, I want to get right on the speaker and just have an angle just on them. I don't want to get everyone else that's in the room or the things that are happening around. I want to keep the focus on them. So that's why I needed a 70-200. The 135mm wasn't actually getting me there. So I finally decided to pull the trigger, and so far I've been happy, because I've been able to get some shots that I can't get with my other wider lenses. So I know some of you are wondering if this is parfocal, meaning that if you go, let's say, from 70 to 200mm, you change the focal length, will it keep it focused? For the most part, it does. Although it's not being advertised on the website, or when you look at the description or specs, it doesn't say it's parfocal, but from what I've seen, it is. You still have to, let's say you go from 70 to 200, you still have to punch in there and make sure you're still in focus. So for the most part, it is. The only thing I don't like about this lens is that it's bigger and it's heavier than other 70-200mm from other manufacturers. I've seen the Canon, and they're not as fat or heavy. So you gotta have to put up with that. It takes more space in my camera bag. It's harder to fit it, and then sometimes it's like, oh, here we go. I have to put this thing in there. But if you can get over that, then still I think it's a great buy. The other thing you have to get used to is that the focus ring is closer to the camera, and then to change the focal length, it's closer to the lens. So it's kind of, it feels like it's reversed. So sometimes I'm trying to change the focal length and I'm switching the focus, so it's weird. So you just have to get used to that as well. But overall, the rings are really smooth, and it's really easy to set focus and to change focal length once you get used to it. To wrap this up, I would say this lens is awesome for the price that it is right now. Even at $1,500, that's what I bought it for. I thought it was great. $1,250, it's a no-brainer. I would probably choose it over the Tamron. You know, I just love how sharp it is at f2.8, and if you don't have a 70-200, it's really gonna change your life. You know, you can get really close to subject, so that's the reason you would want to get it. All right, so guys, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please drop them down below, and as always, I'll catch you on the next one.